My night shift was simple. Walk the abandoned arena, check 3 electrical rooms, and leave. The building was supposed to be dead, but the emergency lights still glowed like dull embers. I parked under a broken sign and let the quiet swallow the sound of my car door. Inside, the air smelled like old dust and cold metal. My boots scuffed across concrete as I followed the service hallway toward the first panel. Halfway there, a single stadium seat creaked high above me, slow and deliberate. I froze and listened, expecting the creak to fade into nothing. Instead, another seat complained, then another, like someone shifting their weight in the dark. I aimed my light up through the vomitory tunnel, and the beam died in a wall of black. I told myself it was settling, wind, pigeons, anything that didn't have a heartbeat. Then a thin line of light blinked on in the upper concourse, far too steady to be a failing bulb. It moved in a straight path, as if carried by a hand. I cut across the floor toward the nearest stairwell to get a better angle. The door at the base of the stairs was supposed to be chained, but it hung slightly open. When I pushed it, something heavy bumped it from the other side, like a shoulder leaning back. I eased the door wider and saw him clearly on the landing above. A tall figure in pale coveralls stood perfectly still, head tilted as if listening through the walls. His face was bare and wrong-looking in the dim, like it had been pressed flat and never recovered. He started down without hurrying, one step at a time, and the metal stairs rang with each footfall. I backed away, trying to keep the door between us, but it swung inward on its own. The gap widened, and his shoes appeared first, then his knees, then his hands reaching for the rail. I ran for the nearest tunnel back to the service hall, my breath loud inside my own ears. Behind me, his footsteps stayed calm, almost patient, until they suddenly sped up with a scraping rush. The arena swallowed the sound, but it didn't swallow the fact that he was gaining. I hit the service corridor and slammed into the electrical room door, yanking it open and diving inside. The door didn't close right. Something caught it from the outside and held it a few inches ajar. Through that crack, I saw his flattened face slide into view, close enough that I could hear his wet inhale. I was covering a remote night shift from my siblings' house while they were out of town. The place was quiet, in that way suburban houses get after midnight, like the walls are listening. I sat up at the kitchen table so I could see the front door and the hallway at the same time. Every hour, I took a quick lap, doors checked, lights off, nothing weird. The only thing that kept clicking was the old ceiling fan chain, tapping softly when the heater kicked on. On my next lap, the pantry door was open just a finger width. I knew I'd shut it because the latch always stuck. I pulled it closed and felt it resist, like something inside was pushing back with gentle pressure. When the latch finally caught, something scratched once, low and careful, from the other side. I stood there, hand still on the knob, listening. The scratching came again, followed by a slow exhale that fogged the narrow gap under the door. I backed away, and my heel bumped a chair that wasn't where I'd left it. I moved toward the hallway to get distance, but the front door's deadbolt was turned sideways, unlocked. I didn't remember unlocking it, and the key was still on the hook by the light switch. From the living room, the TV screen flashed to life with a pale menu glow. even though the remote was on the counter. I edged back into the kitchen, keeping my eyes on the pantry. The knob turned on its own, just a fraction, then stopped, then turned again, like someone testing patience. The door opened 2 inches, and a face appeared in the gap. Wide eyes, damp hair stuck to the forehead, mouth stretched in a tight smile. I couldn't move for a beat, because the smile didn't match the eyes at all. The pantry door jerked wider, and the person unfolded out of the darkness, too close and too fast. An arm shot toward me, fingers spread, aiming for my wrist. I twisted away and sprinted down the hall, grabbing the first solid thing I could, my phone, without looking back. The hallway seemed longer than it should have been, and behind me, bare feet slapped the floor in quick, uneven bursts. I hit the bedroom door, but the handle wouldn't turn, as if someone had locked it from inside. I veered into the bathroom instead and threw my shoulder into the door to close it. The latch caught, but the doorknob immediately rattled, then went still, then rattled again, like the person was listening for my breathing. In the mirror over the sink, I saw their wet-eyed face rise into view behind me, reflected from the crack beneath the door. My night shift was file work in a records wing that stayed open late for audits. The building emptied out early, leaving only my desk lamp and the hum of a vending machine down the hall. I liked the quiet because it made the hours feel clean and predictable. Around 1, I wheeled a cart into the back aisle where the oldest boxes were stacked. The air was colder there, like the heat never reached the corners. At the end of the aisle, a ceiling tile was missing, and a thin strip of fabric dangled down like a forgotten ribbon. I reached up to push it aside, and it pulled upward, quick as a reflex. Something above the ceiling shifted, wood creaking under a careful weight. Dust sprinkled onto my hands, and the dangling strip returned, now tied into a neat little knot. I stepped back and told myself it was a mouse or a draft, even though drafts don't tie knots. When I rolled the cart away, the wheels squeaked once, and the squeak answered itself from above, perfectly timed. I stopped, and whatever was up there stopped too. I decided to leave the aisle and go back to the front desk, but the corridor door clicked shut behind me. I tried the handle, and it wouldn't give, as if a key had turned on the other side. The only way out was the narrow maintenance hatch I'd never used, half hidden behind a tall shelf. I dragged the shelf just enough to squeeze behind it and saw the hatch standing open. The darkness above it looked layered, like curtains of shadow, and then a head lowered into view. A person's face hung there, upside down between pipes, eyes bright and fixed on mine, lips parted as if tasting the air. I stumbled back, and the face snapped away, replaced by the sound of fast crawling. The ceiling tiles trembled in a line that tracked me, popping slightly as weight moved over them. Then a hand dropped through the missing tile, pale, long-fingered, grabbing for my shoulder and missing by inches. I bolted down the corridor toward the vending machine glow, kicking the cart aside to clear space. Above me, tiles banged and shifted as the thing kept pace. Then one tile crashed down in front of me and exploded into dust. Through the settling powder, the person dropped lightly to the floor, landing in a crouch between me and the exit. I ran the other way without thinking, through an emergency door that screamed when it opened. Cold night air hit my face, and I didn't stop until the building was a dark block behind me. When I finally looked back, the record's wing window showed a pale, upside-down face pressed to the glass, watching like it had all the time in the world.